popular question that if you're a horticulturalist, we give you a card, but mainly so you can give out the water guide, which is on the back on how to water. Why don't you all take some of those on that side? And secretly, what I really want, I'm a small business guy. My number one competitor, guess who it is? Home Dumpo. Oh, Amazon's up there too. Yeah, Home Dumpo, Lucifer's Lowe's, all these small. Yeah, we got sayings for them. When you start to work here, there's juice we give you, and we have you tattoo that we issued everyone that just so they drink they believe in the small is good. So anyway, what I really want is my logo in every irrigation box in Yavapai County. So this is meant to tape in, not with my face on the back side. You've got the water guide. Now, when do I turn this thing on again? Well, April. When do I start to power down? November. So it's got a guide on when to, and then how often. We'll cover that today, but mainly I want you all to have the card so it's easy. Put it in your garden journals, have it. Oh, I passed a whole bunch here. Did it not make her? It did. I didn't pass enough there. Ooh, hopefully I brought enough. Here, one for you, one for you. Oh, you got it? You got one? Okay, you got it. Good. Sorry about that. Okay, I'll keep one for me just in case. All right, are we live yet, Johnny? All right. Glad you guys are here. Welcome. Tuned in. We give you a front row seat. You folks tuned in on YouTube, see LinkedIn and Facebook. Glad you guys are here. Okay, so where do we start? Hi, I'm Ken. I own the place. So how does Ken Lane come to own Waters Garden Center? Easy story. Harold Waters, the founder, had 4 very pretty daughters. I took a liking to the youngest, prettiest one. That's how I came. I married in. So actually something very few people know. I went to high school here, college, Yavapai College, ASU, all that stuff you do in Arizona. Grew up here. I tried to get a job with Harold Waters, my father-in-law, since passed a couple of years ago, but tried to get a job from him out of high school. And he said, no, I don't need more young, big buck guys to move things around. You don't know anything. So I said, okay, fine. I'll go do my own thing. And then I came back and married his daughter and came in that way. So there's always a way or a workaround, right? So that's kind of, and then you'll see a very pretty, very tall gal. That's my daughter, Mackenzie. She'll teach some classes every once in a while. She's kind of the GM of the whole place. She runs the place while I go and do my thing in the community and trying to vacation more. Actually, I have a granddaughter being born in May. The baby shower is today. I couldn't go because Mackenzie and my wife, Lisa, went to Texas to do that. So I'm holding down the fort and watching the dogs and the cat, all that stuff. So anyway, that's our family. That's who we are. We've been doing this for 63 years. Kind of a personal invite. The weekend right before spring. So that's March 15, 16, 17. Is that, I think it's 15, 16, 17, whatever that weekend is. It's our 63rd Spring Flower Festival. It's our open house. Please come. We have our growers coming. They actually like it because they don't get to talk to real people every once in a while. They just deal in greenhouses and talk to growers and shipping companies. To invite them to the actual garden center where their stuff is sold, they think that's special. And so they come in, we'll give them the class that Saturday will be, they'll introduce their new products, what they see coming, and some of the new genetics we bring in. You'll see the new plants that weekend. We did debut them that weekend. So that's a kind of who we are, what's coming up, special invite. Every Saturday we've got a class. Today we're on, basically, this is a technical class. We're going to cover, let me just get this for you. Took notes real quick this morning while sipping my coffee. Frost dates. We've got to go over zones. What zone are we? It's confusing. Water. Don't let me forget. The garden seasons. There's 6 of them. We'll cover them. There's not 4. There's 6. We'll cover those in here. Pottery. I do not want my friends making a mistake with pottery. You can blunder and waste away a lot of money if you don't know what to do. Water twice. Why did I do that? We got to cover watering. And then the plants. And that's all. We're going to do that all in about 50 minutes. This is a big class. Looks like it's gathering. People are still coming in. So we'll try to hold off. I'll leave some time at the end just for Q&A. So kind of hold some of those just so I can get through it, or I will derail myself because that's a lot of topics to go over in 50 minutes. Let's just start by, oops. Now you see this whole AI thing. I'm not sure if I like it or not because all of a sudden it just starts recording words and putting it on the notes. That is not good. I did not ask it to do that. It just did it by itself. Okay. How many have heard the radio show or the podcast? Oh, that's good. Half the people. Good. Radio or podcast? How are we hearing it? Radio. Over half podcast. Oh, more podcast than the radio. That's unusual. Okay, that's a 2025 phenomenon. It just flipped. It was always radio. So every week I write a garden column and it's published in the newspapers. But honestly, you should probably not read the newspaper. You should probably just get the article right from my desktop to yours because the newspapers dumb it down. Just it's insulting sometimes. They put the wrong photo. I don't know what they do, but they edit it and go, let's screw it all up. And then they take all the links out. So try to make it a live link thing. So you can go, oh, I want to learn more about peonies or about fruit trees. I let you go down the rabbit hole. I embed that in there. Of course, you can't do that on black and white print or magazines. So anyway, if you're part of our garden club, you get the actual the article ahead of time, and it's live. I mean, it's like actually embedded. I take that's the outline for that weekend's radio show. So it's hard. You can really get up to the microphone and go, I don't know what to say. Well, that's the outline. Kind of go, I know what to say. It just covers an hour's worth of live radio. Is entertaining and fun and can be challenging. That's kind of the format that we use every week. We've been doing that for 20 years. And then we have a garden class. So I'm glad you're here. Let's go over zones. Let's start with that. We are a zone 8. That is it. We're zone 8. We were a zone 7B until last year. Then they moved us up because of warming to a zone 8. What does that mean? Why did they change it? First of all, well, it's 20 years of averages. So they take all the averages for the last 20 years and they go, oh, here's your zone. This is the plants need to be able to handle this much cold before they die. So plants have antifreeze in them, right? So some have antifreeze, some don't. The ones in Phoenix have 0 antifreeze. You get to 32, you even look at them with a cold thought, they die. So up here, our lilacs, they'll go down to, I think, -30 or -40, some crazy cold. We'll never see that, but they will grow here. Forsythia, they go down to -20. We'll never see that kind of cold ever in this, not here. That's like Wisconsin cold. Talked to a buddy of mine in Ohio yesterday. The high was 14. I said, get out of there. Come to Arizona. Why do you live there? What is going on? And so they're a zone 4 or 5. It's brutal cold. We're a zone 8. So that means our plants need to go down to about 10, 15 degrees. And after that, they start to get damaged. So zone 6, zone 7 is going to be like 10 to 5 degrees. Zone 6 is like 0 to -5. Then it goes lower and lower and lower. So you can grow, as you're looking at the tags, it says zones on it. You can grow zone 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Zone 8 and below, you're good. So if it says I'm a zone 5, you're good to go. You'll never see that kind of cold, but that's how you read the zones. Now, we flirt heavily with Phoenix. So don't flirt with Phoenix. Get out of here. We are the ones. We rule, right? Those are flatlanders down here. Why do they live down there 10 miles from the sun? Good night. It's like 120 at 10 o'clock at night. You got to be kidding me. Come up to God's country. But those plants need to take that kind of heat. And so those are zone 9, 10 and higher. So it goes up to about 12. So those are plants that don't have any antifreeze in them. So they are going to die easily in the winter here. They'll grow in the summer. They won't take it through the winter. And that's the difference. So you folks from California, you bring your collections of succulents. You bring your collections of camellias. You bring your collections of, you put them outside. And they did great through the spring and the summer. And then winter came, and right now they look like black mush because they weren't perennial. They were annual varieties, summer varieties. They weren't winter hardy. So there are a collection of succulents, of agaves, of yuccas, of these spiky, fun, decorative plants that do grow here, but out of all the succulents, only this many are zone 8 and below that will winter over with us. And of course, all of those can be found at Waters Garden Center. You heard it here. There you go. So we're carrying the varieties. We're trying to curate the plants for you so you'll make less mistakes. Now, you can still underwater. We still take that cruise for a month and a half to the Panama Canal, come back and they're dead because the irrigation failed. But basically, if you're trying it all, they're going to live for you. And we're covering that here for you today. Okay, so that's zones. Make sense? Zone 8, just zone 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you're fine. We get really technical into there's A and B and whatever. They're trying to break it down for you in 5-degree increments. Just go zone 8 and lower, you're good. Okay. Now you folks from Chino Valley, the valley towns, Paulden, Prescott Valley, you folks, you think you're so special. Oh my gosh, you're so needy. Oh yeah, you're the same as the rest of us. Prescott, Chino Valley, Prescott Valley, we're all the same. We're all zone 8. Don't think, oh, but I can grow more. You cannot grow more. The Verde Valley, just over there, they're the same. I know it's 1,000 feet lower, but all that cold air settles right there in that valley, and it gets cold. The closer you get to the river, the colder it gets. Like it can be colder there than it can in Prescott because that cold air comes off the hills and just settles. In fact, in your neighborhood, you'll find the same phenomena. You'll see if you're up on a hillside, you're probably warmer. As you take a walk within the neighborhood, you go down to that dry wash that runs every once in a while, it's colder down there. So the zones are a bit colder right there than they're at the top. It really comes down to north, south, east, west. So if you're on the north side of a hill, it's colder. I mean, the snow is still, you might see pockets of snow still sitting there on the north side, but on the south side, it's sunny and warm. So you'll see that difference playing out in your neighborhood too. So your best gardens will grow on the east side and the south side. The next one will be the west. It gets kind of hot in the summer. In June, it can be a little warm, but it's a short, if you've got any trees at all, it's a pretty short, heated afternoon, and then the sun goes down. The north side can play with you. That's that shaded, colder side. You got to be more exact. So most of the plants here are set up for sun loving. I like the wind. I want it dry. Most of the plants here are for that. If you start to get more shaded under the canopy of the pine trees, north side of the house, you got this beautiful 2-story house, the beautiful view overlooking the dells. There, it's going to be pretty cold. We need to get more exact for you. Do your homework or come talk to us. We're here to help. Our goal truly is to make sure you don't make a mistake. We want you to get the right plant at the right place. If you do that, life is so easy. But I'm talking to gardeners. You're at a garden class in February. Come on. That's weird. Okay, that's really weird. That says something about you as a person, as a human being, and as a gardener. You like coming to classes and you're trying to figure it out already, and we're a month and a half from spring. Good for you. I'm a gardener too. I'm right there with you. We like big hats and funky gloves and pruners. We love good pruners. Tools make a difference, right? That's a gardener. All right. So sorry to put you down or put you up. Gardeners are cool. Okay. We like hanging out together too. That's zones. Let's go with the seasons. Okay. Let's just knock that out. Let's cover frost dates first. So what we're doing on dates, frost dates, it kind of relates to zones. Our frost dates are May 8, October 29. That's it. Locals kind of use holidays to help us remember. So the locals use Mother's Day. I know it's used a little later than May 8. And what we're doing is we're taking 100 years of data. We're going to, what is the average last frost date for that area? What's the 100-year average? And it lands on March 8th. Okay, Mother's Day is usually 10th through 11th, 12th. It's close. Basically, you're going to be tricked into wanting to garden in March. And you can garden in March. I'll tell you the seasons here in a bit. You just got to be careful. So you're going to want to put the tomatoes and the peppers and those zinnias out there. You're going all into summer stuff. And we still have a month of possible frost to hit us. So the problem with 100 years average is half of those years, half of the 50 of those years, it was still snowing in the middle of May. The other 50 years, it was the middle of April, and the average lands the first week in May. So you can start planting early, just be ready to cover or be aware that it could have this last event that happens that just flash freezes, takes everything out, and you got to start over. I don't want that for my friends. I want that for your neighbors who didn't come to the class, but not for my friends, okay? They can replant. You all need to keep it going. There's some tricks you can do with that. We've got classes later as we get closer to the planting season on just how to prevent frost and that kind of stuff. Just be aware, it is going to be beautiful in a couple weeks. I mean, it's going to be stunning. Just remember, we are not in Kansas anymore, Toto. We aren't going to slowly roll up and just get nicer and nicer and nicer. It just gets better and better as the seasons go. No, we violently get nice. So it goes, it's really nice. And then it goes really cold. It just does this all the way up. And that's how we come down at the end of fall. So in October, it is gorgeous. Actually, all the way to December. It can be, we call it, anyway, long summers. It can just be nice summers, and then it'll get real cold, and then it goes right back to nice again. And so just remember, that's how the shoulders are going in and coming out of the frost. So, but the locals use Mother's Day as that's when you plant your summer plants, like tomatoes, cucumbers, your geraniums, your petunia, all those flowery, that's when the summer plants show up here. That's the desert willows and the smoke bush and all those hot-loving, sun-loving plants, they show up then. And they just get more and more as the heat shows up. As we come out of the season, your fall colors start showing up. September, that's when the first of the aspens and the maples are starting to show some color through October. They're glorious. The very last tree to turn fall color is going to be the flowering pears, basically pear trees. There's a whole series of very, very pretty. They don't actually form fruits. There's a series of them that just are decorative. So Bradford pears, Chanticleers. These are plants. The last one to turn fall color. When you see them drop their last leaf, it's winter, because we're into December at this point. And then from there, we're kind of winter. We're starting to see signs of spring. Can I show you how you tell? So I went down, and mine are looking the same way. So this is a peony. It's basically a bucket of dirt, but it's been rooted out for like 3 or 4 years. So this is fully rooted, but the eyes on this thing, I will show you all first, because since you're on camera, I'm glad you're there. Don't go anywhere. I know you're in skivvies, just looking at the screen, but the refrigerator's calling you. But can you see that eye coming out? So you're seeing this little eye coming out of the ground. That's a sign you are right there to spring. There you go. Sorry to keep you all. So, and mine are actually up about this tall. There's 2 types of peonies that grow here. I'm trying to put together an article next week for that, and a class, and we got a plant drop. My peonies are coming. I've got some really cool varieties that no one's ever seen. It's going to be very fun. But there's 2 types. There's Ito. We grafted a tree peony, we grafted a English peony onto a tree peony. So now you get this English peony on steroids. The flowers are as big as my hand, super fragrant, and you get exotic colors you can't see. English peonies are the shorter ones. They're the ones your grandparents grew. Your grandparents wish they had access to Itos. It's a new varieties coming out. So those are all showing up in my Itos that are showing. They're up about this tall right now. I grow mine in a bucket just because I need something big. They're just so beautiful with the flowers, but the foliage is pretty too. It's got this lacy look to it. But that's kind of one, you'll see things like that happen. I saw the viburnums. This has been out there all winter, just started to go. It's been so nice before this last storm. It went, I think it's time, boom. And so it'll slow down a little bit. It's like snowy, or it was haily. Is that even a word? It was hailing yesterday here at the garden center, and then it gets nice again. So it'll kind of open up when the seasons finally hit. What are the seasons? There's 6 of them, I said. Right now we're in early, actually we're in a bridge time. we're actually technically still in winter. So really December through now, about Valentine's Day, somewhere in here is winter season. This is when your evergreens really shine. So your spruce, pine, fir, cypress, cedar, junipers, all those evergreens, your evergreen shrubs like boxwoods and red tip photinias and silverberries. These are all plants that just look fabulous this time of year. They can change colors. Some of the greens turn purple, then they turn back to green. I brought an example of that for a shrub. So nandinas, you folks in California call them heavenly bamboos. So that's the same plant. It looks like I brought a sample. Where did they go? Sorry about that. Oh, there we are. I buried them. So this is a heavenly bamboo. So it's an evergreen. Animals don't eat it. Javelina, deer, rabbits, nothing bothers us. This is like bulletproof. Every yard should have at least one or several. So this is called, I think it's Gulfstream. Yeah, Gulfstream Nandina or heavenly bamboo. It gets about knee high or so. And then just this nice rounded, easy care, no pruning. It just looks like this all the time. If it's in the shade, it'll just stay green. This one's been in the shade, obviously. But if it's out in the sun, the same plant will do this. So these are the same. This one or this one. This is shaded areas. This is sun areas. And a lot of plants are like that. They're in their sun, they'll get more beautiful. And they're both pretty. And I'm not saying one's right or wrong. If you like red, this is great. If you don't like red, this is better. So, but that's kind of the differences. But you'll see evergreens showing up. If you get that wrong, so you need 20% of your yard should be dedicated to evergreens. And I'll go over the percentages here in a second. But if you get too few evergreens, it just looks dusty and open, and you're sipping tea, looking out the window, going, it looks cold today, because there's no plants out there. Of course, it looks all like rocks, and you need to balance that out so it looks like you have something to look at in midwinter. So 20%. We're just about to shift, probably within the next 2 weeks. We'll be into early spring, bright days, but you can still see some frosty nights. And we will see another snowstorm. We need another snowstorm in March. March is a wet cycle for us. There's 2 wet cycles, usually in September, plus or minus a couple of weeks, and then March, plus or minus a couple of weeks. We call it monsoon seasons, or just there's just more water at that point. March is a very heavy, wet snows. They break branches. It's a heavy, just really wet snow, whereas before this has been light, dusty snows. Know that you can still see some of that through basically sometime the end of April. We kind of shift from early spring to spring season. The mayhem hits at the garden center. We won't have classes then because the parking lot will not handle all the volume. So we'll take a break in May, and then we'll come back at it in the middle of June, and we'll start classes again at that point. So that's when everything goes in. The folks that aren't really gardeners, they kind of just come in just to fill up a few pots and a hanging basket and get their tomato. They visit the garden center one time. They all show up in May. So just to get their stuff, they get one shopping cart packed and they fill it up, they go home and they plant. That's May. That's the spring season. So June, I define as its own season. It's perennial month. So I've got perennials down there now, but they all look like this, dirt in a bucket. There's something there. It starts to come up, but in June, all the perennials are in full bloom. So you don't have to read this little tag and how big does it get? What color is it? I just don't know. They'll just be in bloom. You can smell and touch and feel it. It's just there. So June, we grow perennials better than anyone else in the country. Perennials love bright days. And because we're so dry, we don't have all the issues like the Midwest does with the disease and the mildews and the black spots and the molds. We don't have any of those. It's so easy to grow them. What you'll find is flower, even foliage. Plants will be a little stunted, a little smaller because of the dryness. So that aridness, usually starting April, May, June is like 10% humidity or lower. I think the gauge only goes down to 10%. It won't go down to zero. So, but it could be actually drier than that. But the plants are just starting to leaf out. You're starting to see new buds and foliage come out. It just things, if you're from the Northwest and you these huge flowers, hibiscus, huge, everything's huge in the Northwest. They're not as huge here, but they'll be brighter, they'll be sweeter, they'll be smaller. All that scent will be packed into that flower. So if it's a little bit smaller than you're used to, that's why the dryness is what's doing that to us. So trees, you're used to sycamores that grow to 70 feet. They might only be 50 feet here. Okay, once you pass a 30-foot mark, they're just so big, I can't even take them in. It's going to shade the backyard. But it does play out more with like your lilacs. You're used to 15-foot lilacs in the Midwest or, Michigan or whatever. Here they might only be 10 to 12 feet, just because that's the dryness doing that. Okay, so just so you know, you're playing really here with two things that are really an anomaly. This little bubble called the Southwest, the sun is much more intense and the water is very alkaline and it is dry. Those three things will change how you garden, how you respond. So you would grow Japanese maples out in the full sun in Southern California. If you do that here, the tag says it will grow. It's a zone 8. It'll grow here. It'll grow. It will grow. It'll just be the ugliest plant. You'll hate it. It just won't look good because it'll have burned tips. It's struggling. If you put it in the shaded areas, it thrives. It just looks fantastic. So placement of where you put these plants because of that sun, dry, and alkalinity can change from other parts of the country you've gardened in. And you'll learn that. Gardening's made by learning mistakes, let's face it. I'm just here to help you make, at least if you're making mistakes, you're making mistakes going forward. Never going back. I don't want you going backwards. You can always guide back and change it. But just these are some things that'll really, really help you. Okay, we went from winter, November, December really, through now. We just shifted. As soon as the storm clears, it'll shift to early spring. That's when your lilacs and forsythias, all the early spring bloomers, rhododendrons, azaleas, your early spring perennials, the pansies are in now, the snapdragons. These are all things that love the chilly nights. They need chilly nights. Frost and snow is good for them. They celebrate with that. So that's the season. We go to spring, May, basically, through June. June is dedicated just to perennials, and we go to summer. June, July, August. Into September, it's just summer season. This is when your crepe myrtles, your rose of Sharon's, smoke bush. This is when the agaves, that's the century plant. That's when they start growing that huge flower that grows taller than you and I. It goes to 12 feet tall. That's when all that happens, summer. Okay, there's a whole series. Your spring plants are done blooming. They look beautiful, but they don't look as beautiful as they did back in spring because there's no flowers. They give up the glory and they give it to the crepe myrtles, all the summer blooming things. Then you come into fall. Fall, it's going to be September, October. Into November, it goes beautiful. That's your aspens, your maples, your crab apples. That's all the great fall color. We're famous for our fall color. So that's 6 seasons, and you should represent some of your plants to all of those 6 seasons. Let me give you the formula. If I'm helping you design your gardens, here's what I'm looking at from a designer's standpoint. I'm thinking at that point, the 4 seasons, basically, I want 20% of my plants dedicated to the summer plant, the evergreens. I want 20% of my plants dedicated to spring bloomers, lilacs, forsythia, crepe myrtles, quince, roses, all those. I want 20% of my plants dedicated to summer, crepe myrtles, roses, all these smoke bush, yuccas, agaves. And then I want 20% of my plants dedicated to fall color. Okay, that's 80%. What do you do with the other 20%? Whatever you want. Have fun. It's all for you. If this is your summer home, so it's a phenomenon we see. You may not have known this, but actually if you talk to your neighbors, you'll see this. The Scottsdale, Phoenix, Tucson, Palm Spring folks, the desert folks, they come up and this is their summer home. If that's you, Dedicate all the rest of 20% to summer plants when you're here. Why not have it look glorious? If this is your winter home, we have this winter following. This is Alaska, Michigan, Wisconsin, all those northern, Wyoming, Idaho. It gets all this glory, but it's brutal up there. They have homes down here. If that's the case, dedicate the other 20% to your winter, evergreen kind of stuff. Have more camellias and that some, hollies and that kind of stuff. So that'll get you close, okay? The danger a lot of folks have when they're new to this area, what you'll find is the plant material that you'll find here changes dramatically as those seasons cycle. So right now we are loading up. This is the time to plant and time to buy your early spring bloomers, rhododendrons, azaleas, lilacs, for everything you see out there. They're heavily budded. I'll show you a few things here. This is the time to take them. I will have lilac in summer, one variety, probably a common lilac that your grandparents gets the most popular. It's not the sexiest, not the best, it's not the longest bloomer, but I'll have that one. Now I'll have a dozen varieties, every color you can think of, from dwarf ones to tall ones, to short ones, to wide ones, every variety. This is the time to buy early spring types of plants. I don't think I have a crepe myrtle out there right now. Summer, because there'll be twigs in a bucket until May. In fact, it tricks people because the season is so nice and then cold. Your summer plants wake up late, and so crepe myrtles won't even leaf out until May. We'll start getting calls in April going, "I think it's dead. What do I do?" I said, just wait, hold. Hasn't been warm enough for them. They will leaf out. Grapes, they do not like spring. They're going to wait till summer hits. They have no interest in the spring season. They want it to be warm. They're kind of like lizards crawling up on a rock. There's some lizard varieties of plants. They just want to be warm. And so you'll see that play out as things will leaf out. They don't all wake up at once. They wake up by seasons when they're ready to shine. Okay, where am I at now? What else was I supposed to cover? Let's see. We got zones, we got seasons, we got frost dates. We're getting there. In just a half an hour. I'm right on track. Okay, pottery. Let's cover that. Pottery and water. Big mistake I find, only because I've had so many people make this mistake. This don't grow in this year round. The reason we have this at the garden center is because they're cheap. This is $10 for a clay pot. And it's traditional. Your grandparents use Italian clay. That's like the red glazed clay. You can grow in this, but don't winter over in this. It's made for house plants or for seed. I want to grow my peppers in this. And there's every kind of size, a couple colors down there. Traditional clay pots. This is German clay. It's as good as we can get. It's better than the Italian clay. It lasts better. But as water gets in this and we get this freeze and thaw, the clay will crack, flake, and does weird things. If you're going to grow year-round in your pots, which I encourage, you can do that. You got to get the right kind of clay. And what is that? Let me just take a sip here because I'm getting a little dry. Oh, I should pass this around. I'm notorious for getting to talking, forgetting. I have 4 handouts for you. And what are the 4 handouts? Did I get that? Oh, good. Cool. So I've got High Country Garden, the top 10 plants. I've got how to plant. We'll cover that real quick, and how to water at the same time. We've got the 4 steps of fertilizing. You're coming into fertilizing. March, you need to feed your plants. It is super important. Maybe we'll cover that too. When to fertilize. Then pinyon pine scale. We're starting to see pinyon pine scale already show up. I want you to be able to deal with that. So if you have pine trees in your yard, you'll need to treat them or you'll have some issues, okay? Those are 4 things. We got some handouts. If you want them all digitally, you can read it on your iPad or your phone. You're at the dental office. Don't touch that gross magazine that's been there for 6 months. read the hand, put your email and your name. And then if you could, some of you, and I said this last week, and some of you listened, most of you listened, some of you didn't, slow down. I'm the one that's interpreting your handwriting, and I don't read doctor handwriting. I need clear, distinct. Is it a B or a 6? I'm not sure. Just take a moment, just read a little bit slower, and I'll have an email to you in your inbox by this afternoon, and I'll probably throw a couple extra things on there for you. So it'll be digital too, okay? All right. I was doing clay. What's the right kind of clay? Put this back in my pocket. This over here. Don't do this unless you're doing, I mean, if you're starting seedlings of tomatoes, that's what that's for. If you like that look and you've got a sunroom, Arizona room, that's a great look. But you don't want it outdoors where it freezes and thaws, or it will not last more than a year or 2 years at most. It will just disintegrate on you. This is what you really want to use. Let me take this out of there. Isn't that pretty? This is a flowering heath. It's an evergreen. It's like a hybrid. It's not a perennial. It's not a shrub. It's in between. So it comes back year after year. It blooms in early spring, through all of early spring. Animals don't eat this. I have personal experience with elk and deer and javelina. Don't bother it. It is a pollinator. So bees, butterflies, the early spring things that are migrating, hummingbirds, they love the bell-shaped flower on this, the taste. Just a great little plant. And then when it's done blooming, this has this beautiful kind of foliage looking to it. Takes sun or shade. I've had it right out there in full sun in a container, and it was glorious. And I've had it right out there in a raised bed, mound area, glorious. So good. Heaths and heathers comes in 2 colors, white, and then this, pink. Okay. Now I can go over this. This is what you want to go with. I should do this here. What am I thinking? This is heavy. So you can just tell it's got thick, heavy clay, and it's been through the kiln, and it's hard. So this is not going to flake. This will last. You'll be bored with this by the time before it breaks. So I don't like blue or whatever this color. This is a trendy color this year. This is kind of trending towards a turquoise is one of the trends. Turquoise and beige. I don't know how Pantone came up with beige. How boring can you be? But it also looks like the pastel kind of turquoise southwestern colors are big this year. So we're trying to trend. This is a fashion say we're trying to trend towards what are people seeing in the magazines. Get those colors. This one you can grow in for years and years and years, and it's never going to flake. You're not going to lose your finishes. It's going to go. So watch that. Do your homework. Stay away from, for the love of gardening, that Phoenix clay. They go down there. You get wooed by all the interior designer folks who've got this Mexican clay. It's red clay with this charcoal molten. It has a lot of character to it. It's beautiful. I've literally seen that clay melt in the rain up here. It is not high fired. The reason it gets that characteristic is it's bad clay. They don't use a kiln. They just throw it in a fire pit. That's how it's hardened. So you have no consistency at all. So if you have that, that's made for the inside next to the cow head or something. It's just got that Western flavor stuff. It's not made to garden into up here at this level outdoors. In Phoenix, you could probably do that. Not here. Okay. Pick your color. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be glazed. What you're really going for is this heavy clay, the dense clay, and it's high fired. You need good quality clay and high fired. It's probably going to be Vietnam, Malaysia. Can I say China out loud? But there's some Chinese factories that are good enough. Not all of them. You got to pick. But that's our job, is to curate that for you. So we have our niche in the marketplace, because you can go to Walmart and find this stuff. One size, one color, and it might be a good clay. Here we're focused on resort size, big home, big pots that are made for outdoors. So you're going up that steps, out the back patio, by the pool, we got you covered. So just be aware, don't make a mistake where you're spending $50 on a pot and it breaks after year 1. That's not good use of money. Spend $69 and get one that'll last for decades. So, okay. All right, now where are we at? Watering. Pull out your business card. And I think you folks online, we are so glad you're tuned in. In fact, we put the camera right here, like your front and center. Pull out, you'll see on the right-hand side a list of the links. So you've got the handouts as well. Okay, take a look. Also, while you're at it, really does me a big favor if you like, subscribe, make a comment. In fact, let me know where you're from, where you tuned in at. That ranks us higher in Google. Just really helps our website out. Okay, I know how to take on the box stores. Just be personal, be neighborly. I'm going to see at the grocery store, at the restaurants, they don't do that. So, okay, on the back of this, you'll see here there's 2 basic growing seasons. Our growing season really starts April and it ends October. So yes, plants will start to leaf out in March. When you see those plants don't need a lot of water until they leaf out and start flowering. Once you start to see that, you need to actually power up the irrigation, okay? That generally starts April and it generally starts or ends in October. So we just put that on the card. Okay, established plants, things that are in the yard. You bought someone's house and they planted it 10 years ago. It's fully rooted. Those plants need water once a week and a deep soak. So that's what you see here. So new plantings, let's see, established plants once a week. I'll tell you how much in a second. But just for now, let's go with this. Let's go with frequency. I find that gardeners are very generous people. And they're thinking if a little water is good, water every day is even better. Plants do not like that. That's like putting you in a pool, keeping your head under the water for 3 days. How are you going to look at the end of 3 days or 3 minutes? Plants are the same way. Their roots need oxygen. And if we fill up all those pockets, air pockets with water molecules, they're going to drown. And we're dealing with very heavy clay soil. In fact, you folks in the valleys, you've never heard the word caliche till you moved here. But it's a real hard calcium layer. It's got kind of, can be off colored, kind of chalky kind of colored. You'll know it when you hit it because your shovel will go kunk. What just happened? So you need to break through that. Typically it's a layer about 4 to, I don't know, a foot layer. It's a band of soil. You need to break through that. But water does not penetrate it. And so we'll share that as we get into planting. If it's new plants, I gather I got a lot of new. How many, this is your first garden growing season here in Arizona? Okay, a third of the class. So you're going to put a lot of plants in. It's what we live for, actually. So there, if you're putting new plants, trees, shrubs, vines, the bigger rooted stuff, honeysuckles, apple trees, those things need watering twice a week because the roots, they're just in the bucket. They haven't grown out yet. It takes a couple seasons for the roots to go bump, bump. And now we can throttle it back to once a week. Okay, so it makes sense. So we're talking about the big plants, the roses, the crepe myrtles, the Japanese maples, once or twice a week. Okay. Lawns, Photinia is the same way. That's a big plant. Okay, big roots. Actually, your evergreens are kind of unique. They have such big foliage to them. They shade or protect their root structure underneath, so they don't dry out as fast. So anyway, just something happens. Lawns, flowers, vegetables. Now we're getting into, how often do I water? I can't tell you exactly, but I can get you darn close, okay? So there we're talking probably lawns twice a week if you're using cool season grass, fescues, bluegrass, ryegrass. These are all they're actually looking pretty good right now. So you're starting to see some new growth coming up. Those are your cool season grasses. If you're using Bermuda or buffalo, some of these desert varieties, they're going to be brown for the next 2 months. They're summer lovers, so maybe they don't need it quite as much as early. But about twice a week, see how long you can go. I find folks grossly overwater their lawns, their vegetable gardens, their flower gardens. See, I love a canary in a coal mine. Here's a canary. I love pansies. These guys, my pansies look gorgeous right now. Huge. You walk by and go, whoa, that guy might own a garden center. Yeah, because I know when to plant things. So these I planted back in October, and they've just gotten nicer and nicer. So they're in full bloom. They stay in full bloom. The challenge with these are they're not pansies. They like the cold. They don't like dry, and so and they don't like heat. So they'll actually start to wilt a little bit, and they kind of go, I'm so dry. Oh, help me. And they just lay down. You give them a little water, they go, oh, I'm fine. Boom. They just quickly perk up. If you know what to look for, some plants are more expressive than others. This is a really good one to tell you how often you should water that flower bed or that container or that part of the garden. Okay, you can use this. Pansies and violas. Pansies, violas, Johnny jump ups. Your grandparents called them Johnny jump ups. We now call them violas. The pansies come in different kinds of sizes. So we just basically I go through the catalog and go, I've grown this one. I want that one again. That looks fun. I'll try that. And so we start growing different varieties. Okay. Pansies, this is when you plant pansies. Don't be afraid. It's okay. I know we might see another storm. They'll like it. These do not like summer. I find a lot of folks, new folks especially, they come in April and May. They go, oh, my neighbor's pansies have been looking so good. I want some of those. They get that last crop, and then they die in June. No matter how much water you give this, it'll just be pretty in the morning. You'll come back after doing, I don't know, errands, and it's just laid down dead brown in the afternoon. There's a time in June where I can't take it anymore, and it just lays over and dies. But that's when your summer plants love to grow. Your zinnias and all these this entire greenhouse will be filled at that point with flowers. So plant these, I think, in fall. Enjoy them all winter, or at least plant them early spring so you get enough plants, get enough enjoyment out of them before June hits and they die. So I know, so you gardeners, yeah, but I kept mine alive, Ken. Yeah, because you water like crazy. That's your hobby. Every morning you go out with your coffee and you water your plants. Or they were just the right shade. There was a microclimate. There's one spot in the entire yard that this might grow, but all the other ones died. You got one to live, that's true, and I did too. Generally speaking, when I'm talking to a crowd, this will grow in all the gardens if you plant it when it's still cool, bright days, cool nights. It's not going to like 90 degrees. It's going to fade. Okay. All right. Where's that? Back to watering. Flowers, vegetables, tomatoes, containers, about 3 times a week. Try to give it a day's rest in between watering. Now, June's coming. It's going to be 10% humidity. We might see 100, definitely 90s in June. Okay. You folks out in the dewy May, you'll bump up to 100, 100, whatever, then come right back down. It'll be cool. So you get these really extreme temperature changes between day and night because of our elevation. You just have to get your plants to survive in June. All of us. Just survive. You don't want them to look good. Just survive. Because the monsoons come in July. Even if we don't get rain, the humidity starts to spike. So we'll go from almost 0% humidity to 30, 40%, just like that. And plants go, I'm happy. And you'll see them grow, take on a whole nother set of growth right then. They'll set a whole nother set of flowers right then. So your roses were glorious in May. They're going to look pretty rough in June, but they'll set a whole nother set of flowers. I mean, they're actually more beautiful in the summer and fall than they are in the spring. So it's all because that humidity or that monsoon pattern is what we call it. And so the danger with that, you're watering like crazy in June to keep things alive. And then the monsoons come. Typically it starts raining in the afternoon through the evening. Typically the monsoon rains don't happen in the morning. They're in the afternoon. Those clouds build and they dump on us. And now your irrigation, you've set this irrigation up to water an extra, you've cheated a little bit. Now you've forgotten to throttle back your irrigation from June, and now you double down with a couple storms in the afternoons for that week, and all of a sudden you're overwatering. So we see at the garden center this wave of customers going, I don't know what happened. It looks so good. Now it's dying. What's happening? Again, for the 100th time, overwatering. So my friends, watch, that's a time to adjust or play with your irrigation. July, whenever the monsoons start to show up, watch that. When you start to see some rain, watch that. Also a secret, it says we got a 60% chance of rain that afternoon in the monsoons. That means 60% of us might see rain. The other 40% will see zero. And it might be your neighbor right across the street from you. They saw rain and you didn't. It's literally, it's like the neighborhood will see that thunderstorm will cycle through. So kind of watch. That's just a little thing that happens. They're saying rain, turn off the irrigation. Doesn't mean you're going to see rain. So kind of, it's a time to play with that irrigation, adjust it. So you need to learn your irrigation, learn how to adjust it, take it, skip a cycle, add a cycle, because you'll be playing with it more here than you do other parts of the country. Okay. And then for the love of gardening, now do I touch that one or not? I'll probably get out of sorry, all my landscape buddies. Some of them are not very smart. They don't know how to set clocks, or they just put the plants in, they're watering every day, which is okay for a couple of weeks because you're saturating the soil around it. But after that, plants they don't need that much water. We need to throttle that thing back. So you want a deep soak, then let it dry out. So you want that water to go through. Let's take this rhododendron. People don't think we can grow rhodies here. Rhodies love growing here in the shade. So underneath the pine trees, north side gardens, under a shade tree, they will thrive. And animals don't eat this. So deer, javelina, antelopes, they don't eat this plant. These are all the flower buds right here. Yeah, but sometime in March, they'll open up and they'll be in bloom through April, first part of May. Glorious. And then they've got this nice evergreen foliage to them. So it's a great plant. The reason it's so hardy here, the leaves are real thick and leathery. So that wax over the leaf protects them so they can get through this dry season much better than other plants can. It's just because this plant does really well. Holly's the same way. They got this real thick, heavy, wax-coated foliage, which keeps them from perspiring. So these do really well. Okay, so when you're watering, put your irrigation up here or water right here, and then water it until the water goes all the way through and a little bit more. How much does that need to do that? I'm not quite sure, but I can get you close. If you're out towards Granite Mountain, that area where you get this sandy, crushed granite, water just flushes through pretty fast. Maybe a little less. You're watering probably more often because the water is flushing through faster. If you're out in the valleys, that 69 corridor, where we have heavy clay soils, there you might water less often because the water it just holds that moisture longer. So your gardens will be a little different. My backyard is different than my front yard. I'm on a half acre up in the Prescott Heights area, and there's a dramatic change in the soil types because I'm on a slope like this. They dug out the hillside. You walk in the front door, you go downstairs to enjoy the hot tub, and the garden's out back. Okay, the soil is different down here than up here because of the hillside. There, I would say a 1 gallon plant, which is this size. This is my favorite perennial. This is a euphorbia, rainbow ascot euphorbia specifically. It's related to gopher plant or gopher spurge. You'll hear some of those plants. You'll hear some of those names. This is an evergreen perennial. Mine are easily this tall, vase-shaped, glorious. I like it because it's evergreen and it has a bloom on it. Looks like Dr. Seuss. The flowers are the same color as this. You're kind of going, what is going on there? That's kind of cool. It's a neat little perennial plant. Comes back year after year after year. So this is a 1 gallon plant. It needs about 1 gallon of water per week. It's a flower, perennial flower, okay? A 2 gallon plant. This perennial, this is a peony. So remember, you know spring by the buds coming up. This plant is a 2 gallon plant. It needs about 2 gallons of water per week. See where I'm going with this? We'll get you in a second. This is a 5 gallon. This is get that out of there. That's a 2 gallon, 2 gallons a week. It's a 5 gallon plant. This is a holly variety. I've got a couple hollies here. I'll show you in a second. It's a 5 gallon plant. It needs about 5 gallons a week. That helps you kind of go, how much water? Now you've got different types of irrigation heads. There's 1 gallon per hour, 2 gallon per hour typically. You can have both. I generally like 2 gallon per hour emitter heads myself, just because they don't clog as easy. The orifice in the opening is a little larger, so I don't have as many earwigs can lay eggs in there, snails, slugs, just things happen. A grit can get in there and clog it. 1 gallons are kind of more high maintenance. So I generally use 2 gallons for my trees and shrubs for myself. I have a whole class on just irrigation in the summer, but this is about 5 gallons. A 10-gallon plant needs about 10 gallons, 15 gallons. You can see where I'm going with that. That'll help you a lot. So now you can do some real quick math and get it close. Then you're watering once, twice a week, depending on how mature it is. A lot of mistakes I find, and we'll go over how to plant now here real quick. How are we doing time-wise? Right on track. Actually, a little over time. My mother gave me a Mr. Microphone as a kid. I've loved talking to microphones and crowds ever since. It's like a sickness. They probably have a medication for it or something. The bigger the crowd, the more power. So anyway, here we go. How to plant. Let's take take a tree here. It'd be a good example. This thing is confused. We actually brought our trees in early. Oh, poor thing. I broke it. Actually, it probably came in that way. This is an apricot. So the farm's even warmer than it is here. So we know, oh, if we don't bring those in now, we brought them in early just to slow them down. So they're thinking it's spring, like now, let's bloom, let's start setting fruit now. Well, we got frost coming. And so we brought in things early. In fact, everything this week will go out in the racks just so we get them even more colder. We want them cold. We want to slow them down so they bloom on our cycle. Once you plant them, they'll naturally, from that year forward, they'll naturally bloom when everything else is blooming. But this is an apricot. This is a 7-gallon apricot. So you need about 7 gallons a week of water. How do you plant it? So this is going to hurt you contractors. You got your backhoe. You love digging holes. Don't go crazy, okay? I've seen some guys, they're in a hole this deep going, what are you doing down there? Get out of there. You don't need a hole that big. So you only need a hole this big, that deep. Roots do not go down here. They go sideways. Because even natives, big junipers, pine trees, they grow sideways. They'll go down about 3 feet and then they go sideways like this for hundreds of feet. If you know that's how the plants are going to grow, just encourage them to grow that way. So we're going to add a bucket on both sides, same, whatever that bucket size is, add an extra bucket on both sides, round, saucer shaped, okay? Take that dirt. Some of you have nothing but rocks. Filter out all the junk that's in there. Anything bigger than a golf ball needs to come out because they're just, the particle, it's too big. So they can't hold any water molecules. In the summer, those heat up and you want smaller parts. So the soil can hold some moisture, okay? If you hit a great big boulder, some of you are going to do that. Just roll it out of there as best you can. Use it as a decoration over there. You might need some filler soil. But most of us have enough soil to kind of work with. The soil that's left, if you screened it or screeded it, you're going to add some compost or mulch is what we call it. That's this stuff. Let's get this out of the way so we can see things. We locally source this up in the White Mountains, an old sawmill. This is, I got to be careful, mulch. For you folks in the Midwest, you call that bark. You just top dress with bark stuff. This is composted mocha, chocolatey looking, like it's been rotting, composting for a year and a half. That's what I'm talking about. That we're going to add or introduce into our soil because most of us, especially the newer developments, they took your little bit of topsoil and they scraped it off to the side. And many of you are literally dealing with dead soil. Let me get this out of the way for you all. Sorry about that. So there's no living thing. You won't find one worm, no mycorrhizal colonies, nothing but clay, caliche, junk, rocks, no living thing. Plants, there's a symbiotic thing that the soil uses with the roots of the plant. They like to be in living, breathing soil. So you need to reinvigorate that soil. You can't do the whole yard. It's not practical, but you can per plant, per planting hole. So or per raised bed, you can do that. This is made to reintroduce organics back in the soil so that it'll juice all the living stuff in the soil back for you, okay? They feed off of this. It also keeps the soil from compacting right back down as a clay soil. So if you got heavy clay, you water it one time, it goes right back to solid. If you got real feathery, light, sandy soils, it's going to add some organics so it holds the moisture so that water just didn't go right whoosh right through it. It holds it up there around the roots. So two benefits. Keeps the soil texture right, and it helps introduce, you will start seeing worms come into the gardens. If you just put some of this in it, you'll see worms show up. So just like that, mycorrhizal colonies. This is this white fungal kind of stuff that grows and feeds off the soil. And then it attaches itself to the roots. So it actually extends the root structure of your plants. It's a magical thing. Great stuff. It feeds off of this, not off the dirt. It feeds off the organics, okay? Now, you don't have any fertilizer. This is going to be hard for you folks in the Midwest. Got a buddy of mine, he winters over in Sedona, came to visit. Yeah, Ken, it's 8-foot frost line, which is 8 foot of topsoil. The topsoil freezes. God, we can't dig up there. We just come down here. We vacation all winter. We don't have a frost line here. You could dig a hole right now. There's no ice. I think there was a frost last night. There just this morning you'll get a little bit of frost, and then you pick right through it. We really plant here year round. We don't have a season that we don't. We're not Phoenix where it's like brutally hot. They don't plant in summer down there. We're not like Flagstaff or the upper, Wyoming, because we don't get that cold. We can plant year round. So that might be a little different for you all. Put this in there, and you don't have any fertilizer at all. Right? There's no redeeming value of your soil. You're going to need to fertilize more often. Because that lack of topsoil, you'll find that you fertilize more often here for healthy plants. Let me go off on my riff on organics. We're organic. We're organic here. I used to be the largest synthetic dealer in the state for ortho and for fertilome. I went, man, I'm selling like 6 truckloads of fertilizer here. It's all synthetic fertilizer. Synthetics are petroleum based. They're getting the molecule from the carbon is coming in from basically petroleum, and it's very volatile. You water it once, it just releases and goes. Well, how do we get our rain here? All at once. So I'm fertilizing, and most of it's being picked up and going into the water sources. That's not good. So I could personally poison us all myself. Well, we got to change this. And so 20 years ago, we changed it to going all organic. And I got some good, smart friends that know organics. And so this is a cottonseed meal, bird guano, which plants just love, some sulfur, some iron, some fairy dust. It's got everything in it that grows for here. And now the beauty with organics is it releases over a very long period of time. So it needs water, periodic or irrigation, over about a 3-month period before it all releases and the plants can pick it up. Plants prefer that. So you can juice a plant with a synthetic, and it will react like instantly. But then it's all gone, so it's left hungry for the next 2 months, or really it's only good for about 2 weeks or the next rainstorm. This is going to fertilize much more consistently. So when you're first planting, take a handful of this, sprinkle it around the roots. I usually put it on top myself. People go, yeah, but can I mix it in? You can mix it in. I know gardeners like to make work out of gardening. I take shortcuts on everything. I have a lot of employees, big family. I like gardens. I don't want to work at it. So I want easy. This is do it once, I'm done for 3 months. You can either mix it into that mulch and soil mixture, or I just sprinkle it on top. Either one doesn't matter, okay? But fertilize. You're coming into March is when you fertilize everything, whether it's newly planted or established. You should fertilize everything. They're going to wake up for spring hungry. So give them food, okay? If you're fertilizing, this will be in the handout I'll shoot you here shortly. You're fertilizing 4 times a year. If you think in terms of holidays, Easter is the time when Easter typically lands in March. maybe 1st of April, but basically in spring, you want to fertilize. July 4th, Independence Day. Why then? Because the rains are coming. We know they're coming. So at the end of June, first part of July, fertilize. You could take advantage of all that moisture that's coming. Get a whole other set of growth on those shade trees. Get a whole other set of blooms on those, say, roses. So that's a critical one. The most important feeding of the entire year is Halloween, because those plants are picking up that fertilizer for spring growth. So if you want more apples, pears, cherries, if you want more bigger peonies, you want better shade trees, fertilize in October, which seems counterintuitive, but they're picking up those plants. If you look at the buds right now, they're huge. They're using that food from the fall to grow in spring. So spring, summer, fall, and then winter evergreens. So the new year, we fertilize in the new year. That seems kind of crazy, but what happens is our evergreens start to turn yellow on us. We call it winter chlorosis. They get this yellow hue, and you can go down your street, you go, oh, they fertilized. You can tell they're green. Oh, ooh, they missed. You can just spot who fertilized and who didn't because of that winter fertilizing. So 4 times a year, get it? Spring, summer, fall, winter. So Easter, 4th of July, kind of Halloween. Seems cute. Halloween, that'll be, the aspens are yellow. You're seeing red fall color. Pumpkins are out. Mums are blooming. That's your time. And then 4th of July. What should I use each time? Just use all-purpose plant food, 744. I do make another fertilizer. We're seeing this whole, I had a record, just it blew the numbers out of vegetable and herb gardeners last year. We doubled our sales just in vegetables and herbs. This whole organic, earthy, I think inflation has something to do with that. I think younger gardeners are very much into organic, sustainable, pollinator. It's a thing. We're trying to feed that because that's what we love. And so there I make a 100% organic, we call it fruit, tree, and vegetable food. This I cannot call organic and call it natural, but as soon as you put a mineral in it, so it's got iron and sulfur, you're trying to change your pH, I can't technically call organic. So my pure organic gardeners, I make one just for them. So that's and it's got a lot of calcium in it. So I know you're going to struggle with calcium on tomatoes and apples and things. I just juice that one with, it's called 6447. It's got 7% calcium in it. So it brings out the flavor of the tomatoes, brings out the flavor, the size of your peaches. So we're making fertilizers for here. Okay. All right, let's cover real quick, and then we'll go to plants, and then we're kind of wrapping it up. pH. Your pH is freakishly high. This is going to be a struggle for you. So it's something that's unique to this little area of the Southwest. It's because we've got so much volcanic ash in our soil already. So Thumb Butte, Glassford Hill, actually San Francisco Peaks. All the hilltops you see around us are all volcano cores. And so the ash that was on top, with Thumb Butte's a great example, the core of the volcano is still there, but all the ash that was around it is now, we're gardening in that. Well, ash is very alkaline. It's also very porous, which means that lots of water can be stored in the ground, which is great, but we're storing it in ash-laden soils. And so when the water is pumped out and sent to your house, it's very high in alkalinity. If you're in a well, you got your own well out in Paulden, Chino Valley. There's some unlimited water out there. Great water source, but the pH is very high. When I was gardening for years on 5 acres out in Chino Valley, the pH was 9. I mean, if you folks have pools and hot tubs, you get out of the hot tub, your skin feels like it wants to crawl off of you if you're at 9. Plants don't like that. So you're going to have to lower that pH down. You're always trying to keep it more acidic, which is unusual for us. So that's why we put sulfur in our fertilizer, because we know you're going to struggle with that. It's a given. I'm just going to try to lower that pH to help things bloom better, longer, stronger, greener, bigger flowers, more leaves. If you hear HGTV or Fine Garden Magazine telling you, oh, it's time to put lime out in the garden, don't listen. Lime is made for all the rest of the country except for us. Most of the country deals with acidic soils.
So they're trying to raise their pH all the time. They're trying to get it up. They're just desperately trying to get it up. We're already super high, and if you add lime, it just throws it off the charts and kills things or keeps it from blooming or setting fruit. The other one I see a big mistake, ash. So your fireplace or your outdoor barbecue pit or if you have ash out there, you want to use it up. For the love of gardening, don't add it to your garden soil. Put it along the fence line where you don't want anything to grow. Put it down the driveway, the dirt driveway where you don't want any weeds. Put it there because it's very high in pH. It bumps that pH up where nothing will grow, except for maybe the nastiest of weeds. And you don't want those, trust me. So that's a couple things. pH, make sure you're always trying to make it more acidic. That's organics will do that some. So load organic manures. Now's the time to use manures. Now's the time to get your garden soils ready. To get them ready because you'll be planting in 2 weeks. You'll be planting potatoes and garlics and lettuce and spinach. You'll be ready. March is the time to plant those things. Okay, enough. Organic. Please use organic foods or all natural foods. Stop buying that junk from, I know it's cheap from Costco, 50 gallons, 50 pounds of chemicals, and it just releases and go down. And one main water event, it goes right down the dry washes. And so anyway, just my thing. Okay, where else? We're doing plants. Let's go down a couple highlights. I think again, I'll take 4 or 5 minutes. Did those. Pansies we did. Here are some spring things. These are things you plant now. Perfectly fine. I know we'll get some more weather. It's okay. These things, kale loves cool. These are beautiful. These are things where I design these are at like the front entrance of like hotels, businesses, because they're glorious through winter. Then as they bolt and they start to bloom, they start to elongate, they have the most fragrant flower. So you'll walk into, like say the Marriott or something, you're going, what is that smell? This is a great place. No, it's a kale. So it just comes in a couple colors. I also juggle. No, just kidding. This is purple and white. They come in a couple colors. Do javelina like these? Everything likes these. Yeah, don't put these out where rabbits and deer, put them out where on the back deck, the back area, because they'll eat these. There's like, and I've tried. I've got electric fence and stuff up. These are so desirable. They'll find a way to root under. They just don't mind being electrocuted. They'll go through the fence and just go get these because it's so delicious. So same with your vegetable gardens. They're going to like, if you like to eat it, I mean, kale is a thing. It's very healthy. This is related to edible kale that you get from the grocery store, or you can grow yourself, super easy. This is related to that, just a pretty variety. You could eat this yourself, but it's bitter. I've tasted it. It's bitter tasting. It's not very nice. This one would be an alternative because javelina, there's a couple, depends on the color. Some of the colors, they seem to leave the purples alone. They like the bright fuchsia, bright green, lime greens. They like the taste of that one. So this is called heuchera. Your grandparents called this coral bells because it's got this little flower that comes up and has this little shaped flower. Grows in shade, grows in sun. It's not picky, and it's a perennial. It comes back year after year. So it generally holds its foliage. I just did prune mine back last weekend. Started to have some dead foliage, some regular foliage, and I know it's about to start growing, and I just don't want that dead stuff. So I just took my weed whacker and took a hedger and just went, cut it off as low as I could, fertilized it, and it will come back fresh every year. But it pretty much holds its foliage year round. Heuchera. You'll see it in garden magazines. Sounds like you're hacking up a loogie or something. Heuchera. That's the name, okay? Latin name. Primroses. This is Dusty Miller. This is, we call it a biannual or biperennial. It seems to live for a couple of years, and then it fades all of a sudden. But this is a good, solid plant. If you need big, glorious foliage to fill some, and javelina aren't going to eat it, nothing's going to bother this. Takes their sun, takes whatever you give it. It's a good filler, and then you put things like this with it, and it just pops. This is primrose. Just it loves the early spring, okay? And then the number one ground cover we sell has a lot of names around the country. Periwinkle in the south. We call it vinca in the west. It's all the same stuff. It's a evergreen, so it spreads. And then it does this pretty early and often through the season. Be careful with this. This is aggressive. It grows everywhere. It will take out, if you stand still long enough, it will try to grow up your leg. Okay, don't put this in the middle of your garden or it will be, that's all you'll have left in 2 years. Put this out on the edge where the irrigation just misses. That's where you want it, on the side of the driveway where you can drive over it every once in a while. That's where you plant this, okay? It's very, I put this to the front edge of my containers because it got this beautiful long tendrils and it just is evergreen blooms. There's a place, but it's easy to have a friend go, I got too much of this. They dug a bunch of it out. You introduce it into your yard and all of a sudden all you have is this and you can't get rid of it. So periwinkles or vinca is a great choice for here. Good evergreen. All right. So we've got a couple things. Oh, you got to cover this. Snapdragons. Comes in every color. It thinks it's a wildflower. It reseeds and comes up. If it comes up in a place that's okay, it's not a weed. Comes up in the middle of your rock lawn, kill it. It's a weed. So keep it in bounds. It's want to reseed and wants to spread, but it's a great little wildflower for here. Snapdragons are great and nothing eats this. It looks delicious. I want a little ranch dressing, try it myself, but things are not going to eat this. I think it has a sap that makes your stomach churn. So it makes, anyway. If you struggle with that kind of stuff, let us know, because we've got whole lists of animal resistant. In fact, we're making our category signs now. We're going to set up a whole section of just animal resistant plants. Here they are. It's such a problem. We're going to curate those and just put them all, just you're shopping here. No, you can't have those. These are your people, shop here. The other ones are this big, we're going different, is pollinators. So the butterflies, hummingbirds, here's a whole section because there's so many people going down that path. We're experts. Here they are. Plant these. Okay. Some differences next year. Okay, let's go with viburnums, lilacs, and lilacs. Of course, it's going to be a problem. At least I was off camera, maybe. This is a lilac. You can see these are all the flower buds. This is a dwarf lilac. It's called bloomerang. It's the only repeat blooming lilac. Most lilacs bloom once in the spring, and then there's beautiful green. And the fall, there's this glorious gold, kind of aspen gold color. This one will bloom at least twice, sometimes 3 if the fall season extends long enough. So, and the beauty of this, it's dwarf. It only gets up this tall, whereas most lilacs go to the moon. I mean, they're big. I mean, I shade my office downstairs with a lilac. So it's up about 10, 12 feet, perfect for that afternoon sun. So my office doesn't get so hot. But if you're by the driveway or by your patio, you need something shorter. You don't need it to be 12 feet tall. This is the one. No care, no pruning. It just grows up to about hip high. Nice kind of ball shape to it. The flowers are just, they smell, they look like lilacs, like you think of. They're just a little bit smaller, but they have more of them. So kind of a little different. This one's a dark purple. This will be a new color for this year. Kind of introduced with that lighter purple. It's got that richer, almost trending towards red kind of color. And now's your time to plant these. Plant them now. The mistake I find is people start to see them blooming in their neighborhood. Go, oh, I want one of those. Head down the garden center, buy one in full bloom. They plant it, and it goes into transplant shock, stops blooming. So you really missed the spring. If you can get that in before it wakes up, it'll wake up and go, oh, where am I at? What is going on here? I don't remember this, but I guess I'll just bloom here. And you get the entire bloom cycle out of it. Whereas if you wait till things are in bloom, they freak out some. So they're more at risk of transplant shock. This is called magical gold. Oh, you're starting to see, look at that. That's just overnight. So this will be an indicator when the daffodils and the forsythia bloom in spring, it is spring. So this is a magical gold is a forsythia. It gets about head high. We bring this one in or grow this one because it's got a bigger yellow flower to it. Some of your other ones are smaller. This one's much showier. And the entire thing will be nothing but yellow. And then about a month later, it'll start to leaf out. It's just this beautiful green foliage. Animals don't eat this. So, forsythia. This is viburnum. It does smell really good. Might want to smell it before you leave. It's got even a richer, deeper, it's got a sweeter scent than a lilac does. But viburnum's super drought hardy, very fragrant, and animals don't eat it. That's its claim to fame. Gets up about like this. And the foliage on viburnum are kind of like a lilac size, bigger leaves, whereas forsythias are a little bit smaller. So again, you can look some of these things up, take a picture, or better yet, put it on a shopping cart, take it home, just go plant it. So, but viburnums are great. They do really tough. I mentioned hollies and, hold on. These are for my East Coast friends. Actually, this is for my California folks. Camellias. You folks grow your camellias. At a corporate move, take me to California for a while, Folsom, Sacramento, that area. And I fell in love with growing camellias. But most camellias are tropical. They will not, they're like a zone 9. They will not grow here. This is a zone 5. It's going to go down to -10 or some crazy, you'll never kill it by cold, not here. But it will still get that same camellia flower. It's one of the very first plants to bloom. You've seen it starting to get tricked into blooming now. It's loaded with buds and you're starting to see just a few flowers open up. So a good pollinator. The bees are coming out right now. They've been hibernating. They come out, they start foraging, and there's nothing blooming. So they love these. So it's a good bridge. And then this one, most famous of all the plants, it might be a top seller in the country, it's holly. East Coast, Midwest is mainly where it grows, but it grows surprisingly well here because of that, again, that waxy leaf to it, very thick, waxy leaf, which makes it can control its perspiration. Some plants literally cannot take up moisture fast enough to replenish how much it loses up top, and so you get this burned tips to it. This one can control that. Okay, hollies. These are both shade plants. I would say no more than 6 hours of sun. This will take a lot of sun. That midday in June, that's going to be hard on it. Early morning sun, late day, no problem. That midday and midsummer, this one's going to get, it says it'll grow in full sun. But my name's Ken. We're just friends. We're talking over the back fence. I'm telling you, this is going to do better in that east to north to direct west. Keep it out of that south side. This is going to take less sun. I would say it burns a little easier. I would say no more than 6 hours of sun to full shade. Plant this with your Japanese maples, and they're good companions to each other. So good bloomers. Yeah. Oh, man. Of course, they've just been watered. Did that, did this, did this. I had to bring some drought-hardy native stuff. Some of you want saguaros. You cannot grow those here. So they're too cold. But I like cactus. Well, you can have prickly pear. And that's about it. Choyas or jumping cactus or teddy bear. They try to soften up the name. Jumping cactus or choyas. They go, oh, it's a teddy bear cactus. Yeah, because it'll rip your face off. It grows here. Okay. We'll have some clear cups, little tiny guys. Really, you're really limited. We grow many more agaves. We grow these guys. Where are you at? This is a blue-beaked yucca. Yuccas do amazing here. Okay. This one has a white flower. I've got a new one coming up. Let me think here. I'm going to introduce those the second half of March. We've got a new bright yellow yucca. Normally they're red. I'm kind of bored. I put my kids through college selling red yuccas, but there's a new one that gets only this tall, bright yellow. It's going to be cool. Hummingbirds love it, and it'll be introduced. Here's an insider tip. You should belong to the garden club. We're introducing the new plants before they show up. And so the yellow yucca, a new orange crush, native, I'm not even sure what you call it, just a little tiny perennial, and a new manzanita, a collection of native plants that you've never seen. They're only going to be available here. What happens is I bring those in, they sell out like that. So I'm going to let my friends go, hey, these are coming. If you want one, we'll put your name on it. So we call them plant drops. We're going to plant drop that collection in March. And if you're on our email list or part of our ecosystem at all, you'll see that. Grab it. And then we'll put one aside for you. And then the rest will go out if there's any left. I have a feeling those will just be sold. They'll just sell out. I won't have any more. It's a limited crop. So we're trying to let you all get ahead. The new peonies, that'll come out next week. I've got 2 crazy, funky Ito peonies, doubles. Like, I'm very excited. I don't get excited about plants because I've seen them all, but these are exciting. So yuccas, agaves, there's only 2 that really grow here. The blue agave I wish would grow here. That's the one they make tequila out of. That great big blue one. I've tried to grow that, and it just dies out. I can get it, I can coax it for about a year or 2, then it just dies. But most of all the other ones do really, the shorter ones do really well. These are, anyone know what that is? You folks out Williamson Valley, this is manzanita. So it gets little bell-shaped flowers on it. Evergreen. This is Panchitos. So Howard McMahon is the big one that we grow. It gets too big sometimes. This one goes about this tall. I think it's more manageable size for more garden areas, but it's just as tough. It's got the same red bark. It's the same bell-shaped flower, nice evergreen. So we're trying to introduce more. I've got Chieftain and Panchito. Those 2 are introducing this year. Those are 2 you'll find. I now have the regular one too, but trying to get more sizes. This one is called Bearberry or Massachusetts, or it's got a couple names. Again, these are both related. This is a big bush. This is a ground cover. This is as tall as it gets, but you can see what it's doing. It's running this way. And so if you've got a rock yard, you got rock going down, so you need to plug some things in that take the heat. This is your one. So a couple different things. Manzanitas do great here. If you're going to kill these, guaranteed it'd be from overwatering. In fact, I would not even put this on irrigation. I would hand water this and then try to remember to water it often enough. That might be too much still. This is a true native plant. So, okay. Yeah, I would fertilize them just to keep them looking good. Couple here, and then we'll wrap it up. This is a broom, B-R-O-O-M, broom. Spanish broom gets really big, gets a yellow flower. It's the most popular. I find it short-lived. So it grows for about 4 or 5 years and it starts to die out. It's just high maintenance. I mean, I like that as a garden center owner because you got to come back and buy it again. This is Scotch broom. It's a shorter variety. This one I have in my yard because it doesn't die out. It's lower maintenance. It's more consistent, and you get some funky colors. I think this one's red. Yeah, red purple kind of color to it. So it's not just yellow. So it's a little shorter, less maintenance, longer lived. Super drought hardy. So again, this is how it looks in the summer. This is how it looks in the winter. In the spring, it has purple flowers on it. That's the difference. And it'll be popular here. This one I brought as a precursor to one bug that we found showing up last week. I have a feeling if it warms up, it will only get worse. We're starting to see pinyon pine scale show up. It's a unique thing that we have. And if left unchecked, it will kill the plant. And what it does, you can look, if you walk in your yard, if you have pinyon pines, and some of you bought your house and built around this magnificent pine tree. If you have pine trees in your yard, you should probably treat them because we're seeing bark beetles starting to show up and scale both. It's because it's been such a mild winter. I don't think it got cold enough to kill them back some. And so they're activating sooner than they normally we see them show up in March. They're at least 2 to 3 weeks early this year. And the way you can look at it, you take a needle. If you look at the needle, you see a little tiny dot. Looks like someone took a pencil and just took a little dot on it. That is a scale. If you have that, you've got problems. Come see us right away. Okay. If just Go. You can do that, or if not, pick off a piece, put it in a Ziploc baggie if you would, because I don't want it spreading. And we'll put it. We can go, yeah, that scale, or we'll put it under the microscope, and you can kind of go, yeah, look, see the scale. We'll show it to you. If you see that, I would say if you have a pine tree, just do this. We have tree and shrub drench. You do not need to be an arborist. You can do this yourself. Don't pay a bunch of money to someone to do this for you. You can do this yourself. All you need is a watering can. And the way you use this, it's systemic. The plant will absorb it through the roots. It takes it up underneath the bark and then taints all the needles on the tree, protects it. So how do you measure it? So you don't spray it, you pour it right at the base. And the way you use this, you can read the label. How you do it, to take measure around the trunk, whatever the circumference is, that's how many ounces of this you need. Pour that many ounces in this, top it off with water, pour it around the tree. You're treated for a year. It's that easy, okay? If you've got ponderosa pine, we're starting to see them with bark beetle. Treat them with this. Bark beetle can kill entire streets have been killed from their pine trees. So just protect them. A little bit of care. I would say for those things, treat them with this and fertilize, and you'll have the most beautiful trees in the neighborhood. Those two things. Black pine, I would say, if it's a pine tree, I have a feeling, this is my gut feel. I've been doing this for 33 years. When you see a real dry winter like this, the next spring, we see a lot of bugs and a lot of death. So I think a lot of customers have not watered enough through winter, and we're going to see a lot of pine trees, spruce die. A lot of photinia get killed right back, or winter killed, is what we call it, or winter burn, is what we call it. But if a pine tree got cold and it was dry, that zone 8 doesn't matter, because it just doesn't have enough, it can't keep that antifreeze going up and down the structure of the tree. And so we get this damage to it. I think we'll see, I haven't seen it yet. See a little bit of indication of it showing up, but I have a feeling we're going to see a lot of it. So if you should water in the winter, you notice in that water guide, it had winter, water twice a month. Those folks that watered, just tried to water some in the winter will be okay. Those that didn't, they're going to see damage. I don't know how bad. I'll find out. By the end of March, I could tell you. So for now, going back to this, look forward, just seeing it show up early. I know those two things, bark beetle and pinyon pine scale, are going to be bad this year because I already see it. Just treat it with this, okay? With that, that's all I had for you. No, I actually had more, but for an hour and a half, I know those seats are getting hard. So I will hang out. Let's just take 3 questions, one from here, one from here, one from here. We'll start with this one. That's not a question. Yes, I will do roses. Yeah. So what about the other evergreens like Deodar cedars, Arizona cypress, the bright junipers? They're less prone to get those. So I wouldn't say treat those with this. With that being said, there are some bugs. There's a tip borer they can get on things, but I haven't seen that yet. I would say don't treat those. If it's an evergreen, it's super valuable to you. Let's say it's a front yard centerpiece. Just treat it. Just fertilize and keep it looking good. Do your gardener thing on them. It'll keep them glorious. It cannot hurt, but I hate to just sell systemic bug killers for nothing. So I'd rather have you treat, if you've got an entire forest, some of you have big lots and lots of pine trees, treat the ones that are valuable, the big ones. Seems like the smaller ones have a way of, they're just so young, they got so much vigor to them already, they have a way of keeping them at bay. The older ones, the old guys, they tend to get, they get it more. Treat those. And then kind of make your garden dollars go farther that way. Okay, over here. Yeah. How long, not just fruit trees. So how long, fruit tree specific, but how long is a plant need to be planted before it's established? It takes 2 growing seasons. So year 1, you'll get some roots. Year 2, you'll get dramatically more roots. Second season, second spring, it's pretty much, it's established. That's a great question, actually. There's one more. Yeah. Does it, yeah, gotcha. So great question. I should have covered that. Sorry. So how long does this last? Does it kill bugs or just prevent them? It does all the above. And this is the new technologies. This is the latest, greatest chemistry. This will actually treat the main core that you see now. And as it grows, new growth, it actually treats that as well. The older technology only treated the neck, what's there now, and all the new spring growth wasn't treated. So this is the better of all the drenched things you see out there. This is the better one. How long does it last? 1 year. So you treat it once, you should be treated for a year. And think of it like an antibiotic almost. So it will treat, if there's a bark beetle underneath the bark, it will kill them, and then it keeps the other bugs from wanting to come in. It's kind of, I'll leave it with this. Bugs love a party. So if they start taking on a tree, they put off this pheromone that throws out that says, hey, party's over here, bring chips and salsa. The party's here. And they should start building. And they'll literally go from a dozen to hundreds of bugs in just a month or two, because they're flying around going, where's the party at? Where's the party at? I got my bag of chips. Let's go. Shoot. And they just start gathering in. The party's there. When the tree starts to get stressed, now the tree throws off a scent. And now the entire forest is going, go kill this one. It's a way of thinning the plants out. If you treat it, it prevents all of that. So great question. I will hang out here as long as you want. I'll take on questions, whatever, but I gotta let you go. I'm so glad you hung in for an hour and a half. Thank you for that. Come down and see us this afternoon. I'll get you the handouts too. Before you go though, just the old performer in me. I gotta hear this. So yeah, thanks. So appreciate you guys coming here. And I'll hang out as long as you want.